The rain hammered Denver's industrial district like bullets on tin, each drop exploding against cracked asphalt in the kind of downpour that turns alleys into rivers. Thomas Harrison stood in the center of three Krell warriors, their gray skin slick with water, 4 arms each, flexing with the kind of confidence that comes from never losing. The aliens formed a triangle around him, blocking every exit, their bulk making the narrow passage feel like a coffin stood on end. Tom's jaw set. 68 years of living had taught him exactly how much trouble looked like, and this was about 4 times the recommended dose. Behind him, pressed against the brick wall, a figure wrapped in a threadbare blanket trembled. Blue skin showed through torn fabric, luminescent, even in the sodium glare of distant streetlights. Silver hair matted with blood and filth. The lead Krell stepped forward, water streaming off his ridged skull. That's far enough, human. You're carrying property that doesn't belong to you. Tom shifted his weight, an old habit from decades of combat. His boots, standard issue from a war fought before these aliens ever showed their faces on Earth, found purchase in a shallow depression. The rain made everything slippery, but that cut both ways. She's injured, needs medical attention. The Lorani female belongs to merchant Prince Vex. He paid 50 million credits after Warlord Kane's coup. High-quality merchandise doesn't just walk away. The words hit different than the rain. A queen. Not just some victim, but royalty caught in the galaxy's meat grinder. Tom's mind cataloged the tactical situation in the half-second it took for his heart to beat once. 3 opponents, each outweighing him by 80 pounds. 4 arms meant twice the striking surfaces. Reach advantage, strength advantage, numbers advantage. The kind of math that usually ended with body bags. His hand moved to the worn handle of his collapsible baton. Your broker should have taken better care of his investments. The Krell spread out, professional, practiced. Shock batons hummed to life in their hands, crackling with enough voltage to drop a bull elephant. Tom lowered the woman, gently propping her against the wall. Her eyes, impossibly large and violet in the dim light, tracked his movements. Even broken, she radiated something that made his chest tight. Not attraction exactly, though. She was beautiful in an alien way. Something older. Recognition, maybe. The look Sarah had given him in those final hospice days when the morphine couldn't touch the pain anymore. Max, guard! The German shepherd materialized from the shadows, all muscle and loyalty, positioning himself between the woman and the Krell. His growl was a low-frequency threat, the sound of a predator deciding if prey was worth the effort. Tom straightened, rolling his shoulders. The servos in his joints complained arthritis, singing its usual song. In the Marines, they'd called him Iron Tom. These days, Rust Tom felt more accurate. Last chance to walk away, gentlemen. The Krell laughed, a sound like rocks in a blender. One human, 60-plus years if we're reading those wrinkles right. Your species always did have more courage than sense. They attacked. Tom sidestepped the first Krell's charge, using momentum against mass, exactly like Gunny Rodriguez had taught him in 1983. The alien crashed into the wall where Tom's head had been a heartbeat earlier, brick crumbling under impact. Tom's baton extended with a metallic snap, catching the second Krell across the knee joint. Cartilage crunched. The alien went down with a howl that echoed off warehouses and empty lots. The leader circled, cautious now. Smart. Not bad for an old man. Tom didn't waste breath on replies. In Iraq and the night raids through Basra's burning streets, he'd learned that talking got you killed. So did hesitation. The difference between coming home and coming home in a box, usually measured in milliseconds. The leader fainted high, struck low. Tom read it, his body moving on programming, carved into muscle memory by 10,000 training hours. He caught the shock baton on his forearm, felt voltage race through his nervous system like fire in his veins. Pain was information. He processed it, filed it, kept moving. His counterstrike went for the throat, precise, controlled. The Krell blocked with 2 arms, but that left 2 others occupied. Tom's boot found the alien's instep, then his knee, then drove up into the junction where leg met torso. The Krell folded. 30 seconds. 3 opponents neutralized. Tom stood over them, breathing hard but standing. His heart hammered against ribs that had been cracked in Fallujah, broken in Afghanistan, and held together with surgical wire and stubborn refusal to quit. The woman stared at him, those violet eyes wide. You fought for me. Her voice was wind chimes in a graveyard, beautiful and broken. No one has fought for me since the palace fell. Tom turned, extending a hand. Ma'am, we need to move before their friends show up. She tried to take his hand. Her arm bent wrong bones, grinding against each other in ways that made Tom's stomach turn. He'd seen plenty of combat casualties. This was worse. Methodical. Someone had taken their time. He lifted her instead, cradling her like she weighed nothing. In reality, she was maybe 90 pounds, and 30 of that was probably just the pain. My name is Serafina. Each word cost her. Queen of Astron, every bone broken, hours of torture, and still you help me. Thomas Harrison. Friends call me Tamam. Why Thomas Harrison? Max pressed against his leg, a solid reminder that some questions didn't have good answers, just honest ones. Because you asked me to kill you, and I saw something in your eyes I couldn't walk away from. The rain intensified a wall of water that turned the world into a watercolor painting, all edges blurred and running. Tom moved through it, boots splashing through puddles that reflected streetlights like scattered stars. Behind them, the Krell groaned, starting to stir. Time was a luxury they didn't have. 6 blocks to Webb's clinic. 6 blocks that felt like 6 miles, with every step broadcasting their position, every shadow potentially hiding reinforcements. Tom's shoulders burned. His lower back screamed. The arthritis in his hip joint felt like someone was using an ice pick on the bone. He kept walking. Serafina's hand found his chest resting over his heart. I can feel your pain. How you push through it. Had a lot of practice, Your Majesty. Just Sarah, I'm no one's queen anymore. The clinic appeared out of the rain like a mirage, a squat brick building wedged between a closed auto shop and a warehouse decorated with a graffiti that probably said something meaningful to someone. A single light burned in the window, Webb's signal that he was still working the late shift. Tom kicked the door, 3 sharp impacts, their old code from Kabul. Webb emergency. The door swung open. Marcus Webb stood there, 62 years of hard living, carved into a face that had seen too much and somehow kept functioning anyway. His eyes, sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses, went from Tom to the woman to Max to the Krell blood on Tom's knuckles. Jesus Christ, Tom, that's an Astron. A royal one, if I'm reading the markings right. I know. She needs help. Now. Webb stepped aside, years of battlefield medicine overriding questions. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and dog fur, an odd combination that somehow worked. Metal examination tables gleamed under fluorescent lights. Cabinets lined the walls, labeled in English, in 3 alien languages Tom didn't recognize. Webb cleared a table with one sweep of his arm, instruments clattering. Put her here. Gentle. Tom lowered Sarah onto the cold metal. She whimpered a sound that cut deeper than any knife. Her hand clutched his, refusing to let go. Don't leave. Not going anywhere. Webb pulled out a scanner, something that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie rather than a veterinary clinic. Blue light played across Sarah's body, and a holographic display materialized in the air, showing her skeleton in 3 dimensions. The old Marine went very still. Tom, every major bone is shattered. Ribs, pelvis, femurs, radius ulna. Vertebrae fractured in 6 places. This wasn't an accident. Sarah's voice was barely audible. Merchant Prince Vex. He buys rare beings, trains them for clients with specific tastes. I refuse to submit. He made an example. 47 hours of breaking, 1 bone at a time. Tom's jaw clenched hard enough to hurt. His free hand curled into a fist, knuckles white. In Iraq, he'd seen insurgents do terrible things to prisoners. In Afghanistan, he'd walked through villages where the Taliban had demonstrated their version of justice. But this was different. Clinical, businesslike, evil without passion, which somehow made it worse. Webb caught his eye, a warning look that said revenge would have to wait. Can you fix her, The older man hesitated, weighing options that all came with price tags written in pain and risk. I've got something. Experimental regeneration gel. Military developed it from tech recovered at Roswell in '47. Not FDA approved. Barely tested on sentience. Tom started to respond, but Sarah squeezed his hand. Do it. I've endured worse. And I refuse to die in this filthy alley after surviving everything else. Webb nodded, moving to a locked cabinet in the back. He returned with a case marked with biohazard symbols and warnings in 5 languages. Inside vials of silver liquid glowed with their own light, pulsing like a heartbeat. This is going to hurt. A lot. The gel rebuilds from the cellular level. It has to break down damaged tissue before it can reconstruct. Think of it as chemotherapy and physical therapy combined compressed into 72 hours. Sarah's violet eyes never left Tom's face. Will I survive? If your species' physiology is compatible, maybe 80% chance. Better odds than I had an hour ago. Webb loaded the first syringe, finding a vein in Sarah's arm that hadn't collapsed. The needle went in smooth practiced. Silver gel flowed into her bloodstream, visible beneath her translucent blue skin like mercury through glass. The effect was immediate. Sarah arched off the table, every muscle locking rigid. Her scream was a frequency that made Max whine and Tom's ears ring. Her hand crushed his grip, strength that should have been impossible for someone with shattered bones. Tom leaned close, his face inches from hers. I'm here. Focus on my voice. Count with me. 1, 2, 3. Her eyes found his pupils blown wide with agony. 4, 5. Her voice was shredded glass. 6, 7. That's it. Keep going. They counted together, his voice steady as a metronome, hers breaking on every syllable. Webb monitored vitals, adjusting IV drips. His face the mask of professional detachment that covered decades of caring too much. 40 minutes later, Sarah's screams had faded to whimpers. Her grip on Tom's hand had loosened, not because the pain decreased, but because her body simply had nothing left. Webb checked his scanner again. Remarkable. Her skeletal structure is already beginning to knit. At this rate, major bones will be stable in 48 hours instead of 72. Her biology is accelerating the process. Tom brushed silver hair from Sarah's face, his touch gentle, despite the calluses earned from 40 years of hard living. You're doing great. Rest now. Her eyes fluttered closed, but she didn't release his hand. Max patted over to resting his head on the examination table. The dog's presence seemed to calm something in Sarah, her breathing evening out into something closer to sleep than unconsciousness. Webb pulled Tom aside, keeping his voice low. You know what you've done, right? That's not some random trafficking victim. She's Queen Seraphina of Astron. The royal family was overthrown 6 months ago by Warlord Kane. It made every intelligence briefing in the solar system. Didn't recognize her from the briefings, because everyone assumed she was dead. Kane sold her to Vex for plasma weapons. 50 million credits. That's not the price for a corpse, Tom. That's the price for leverage. Tom's mind processed the implications, years of tactical training, clicking through scenarios. Vex will come for her. Vex will come with everything he's got. And when he gets here, this clinic won't stop him. Hell, this city won't stop him. The man has connections from here to the Kuiper Belt. Then we make sure we're not here when he arrives, Webb nodded slowly, already planning 3 moves ahead. My cabin up in Roosevelt National Forest. 2 hours north. Off-grid defensible, stocked for a siege. Sounds perfect. Can she be moved? Give her 12 hours. Let the gels stabilize her spine at minimum. Moving her now could paralyze her permanently. Tom looked back at the examination table. Sarah slept finally, her face relaxed in a way that hinted at what she'd looked like before torture had carved new lines around her eyes and mouth. Beautiful, but more than that. Regal. The kind of person who commanded rooms just by entering them, even broken and bleeding. Webb was checking security monitors when the proximity alarm chimed. Tom, we've got company. The screen showed 6 figures approaching from multiple angles. Professional spacing, tactical formation, armed with weapons that looked military grade. Vex's people, or Kane's, does it matter? Tom moved to the weapons locker Webb kept in the marked room, the one nobody asked about and everyone pretended didn't exist. Inside an arsenal that would have made the ATF have several aggressive conversations. Tom selected a tactical shotgun and a pistol with custom grips, both familiar weights, that fit his hands like old friends. How long until they breach? 3 minutes. Maybe less if they brought cutting tools. Sarah's eyes opened suddenly, alert despite the drugs in her system. 6 hostiles, 4 human, 2 Krell. The humans are former military, special operations. The Krell are enhanced with combat stimulants. Her voice was dreamy, disconnected. I can feel their intentions, like pressure in my skull. Tom and Webb exchanged looks. Feel their intentions. Astron royalty have latent telepathic abilities, dormant most of the time, but the regeneration gel must be activating neural pathways. I can sense them, not thoughts exactly, more like emotional signatures, hostility, determination, fear. That's useful. They're breaching from the north entrance. Two more from the roof, one watching the back exit. Tom checked the shotgun's chamber muscle memory from 1,000 training drills. Webb, you take the north. I'll handle the roof. Max guards Sarah. The shepherd positioned himself beside the examination table, Hackle's raised teeth bared in a silent promise of violence. The north door exploded inward, shaped charges blowing the lock and half the frame into splinters. Webb was ready, firing from cover, each shot calculated to wound rather than kill. Intel was valuable. Bodies only told you so much. Tom climbed the access ladder to the roof hatch as the first merc dropped through night vision goggles, turning him into an insect-headed nightmare. The shotgun roared once. The merc hit the floor and stopped moving. The second merc was smarter, using flashbangs first. The world went white and silent, Tom's senses overloaded. But 40 years of training meant 40 years of working through sensory deprivation. He moved on instinct, clearing the fatal funnel, getting offline from the entry point. His hands found the shotgun's pump, working it by touch. The distinctive sound was universal language, understood across every battlefield in human history. The merc tried to adjust, bringing his rifle around. Too slow. The fight lasted 90 seconds. 4 hostiles down. 2 fled when the math turned bad. Webb had a nasty cut across his forearm, already bandaging it with practiced efficiency. Tom had bruised ribs and a headache that felt like an ice pick behind his left eye. Sarah sat up on the examination table, impossible given her condition 12 hours ago. More are coming, I can feel them. At least 20 signatures. And something else. Something cold, mechanical, not alive but aware. Tom reloaded, counting rounds automatically. How long? 30 minutes, maybe less. Webb tied off his bandage with his teeth. We leave now. Take my truck. I'll lead them away, buy you time to reach the cabin. Webb, don't argue. We both know I'm right. Besides, someone has to make sure Vex's people don't track you. I've got enough explosives in the basement to make that happen. Tom wanted to protest, but Webb was right. He usually was, which made him annoying and invaluable in equal measure. They loaded Sarah into Webb's truck, a rust bucket Ford that had survived 3 tours in Iraq by virtue of stubbornness and constant mechanical prayer. Max jumped in beside her, taking up guard position like he'd done it 1,000 times before. Webb handed Tom a keyring. Cabin's coordinates are in the GPS. Food for 2 months. Water filtration, medical supplies. If things get really bad, there's a satellite phone in the hidden compartment under the bed. Direct line to some people who owe me favors. Webb, go, before I change my mind and keep all the fun for myself. Tom gripped his friend's hand, the kind of handshake that said everything words couldn't. Don't do anything stupid. Too late for that. I'm helping you, aren't I? The truck's engine turned over after 3 try, belching smoke that probably violated 6 EPA regulations. Tom pulled onto Denver's empty streets as the first light of dawn painted the eastern sky in shades of purple and gold. Behind them, Webb's clinic exploded in a fireball that lit up the industrial district like a miniature sun. The old Marine had always believed in thorough work. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, her hand resting on Max's head, both of them staring out at a city that hadn't expected an alien queen and a retired soldier to drive through it before breakfast. Your friend, will he survive? Webb's been surviving impossible situations since before you were born. He'll be fine. You care about him. I can feel it through the connection. Tom's hands tightened on the steering wheel. What connection? Sarah's violet eyes studied him with unnerving intensity. You felt it when we touched. My people call it life bond. Happens rarely, maybe once per 100 years. 2 souls recognizing each other across species, across circumstance. I don't believe in souls. Belief isn't required. The bond forms whether we acknowledge it or not. Tom drove in silence, processing. Behind them, Denver disappeared into the rearview mirror. Ahead, the Rocky Mountains rose like sleeping giants, peaks white with early snow. The road climbed into elevation switchbacks and thin air, making the old truck's engine labor. Trees crowded close, pine and aspen creating walls of green that blocked out the rising sun. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in as many minutes. Tom's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You made powerful enemies, old man. Vex is calling in markers from the syndicate. There's nowhere on Earth you can hide that woman. He showed Sarah the message. She read it, her expression unreadable. The syndicate controls trafficking networks across 3 star systems. They have resources, connections, politicians in their pocket. If they want me back, they'll find me. Then we make sure they don't want you back. How? Tom's smile was sharp enough to cut. By making you too expensive to retrieve. Every time they send people, we send them back in pieces. Eventually, the cost-benefit analysis tips, and they write you off as a loss. You're suggesting we fight a criminal organization that spans multiple planets. I've fought worse with less. Sarah studied him for a long moment, then laughed. It was a startled sound like she'd forgotten how. You're insane. Been told that before, usually right before proving people wrong. The cabin materialized through morning mist, rustic logs, and a stone chimney solar panels catching first light. Tom helped Sarah inside Max, scouting ahead to clear rooms with military efficiency. The interior was exactly what Tom expected, functional, comfortable, me-armed to the teeth. Sarah sank onto the couch, exhaustion finally catching up with the adrenaline. Her skin had a gray cast beneath the blue, her breathing shallow. The regeneration is working faster than expected, but my body needs rest. Days of it. Then rest. I'll keep watch. Tom. She caught his hand again, that connection sparking between them. When I heal, when this is over. What happens then? We figure it out. Together. Together. She tested the words, smiling faintly. I like that. She slept within minutes, her hand still holding his. Tom sat on the floor beside the couch, shotgun across his lap, watching the tree line through windows that had been chosen specifically for good fields of fire. Max settled beside him, a warm presence that asked no questions and offered quiet solidarity. Outside, wind moved through pines with a sound like distant ocean waves. Somewhere in Denver, Webb was leading Vex's people on a chase that would end in fire and fury. Somewhere in the mountains, a criminal empire was mobilizing to reclaim stolen property. And in this cabin, a broken queen slept while an old soldier kept watch, both of them bound by something neither fully understood, but both were willing to trust. Tom's phone buzzed again. This time a news alert. Denver Metropolitan Police were investigating multiple explosions in the industrial district. No casualties reported. One suspect still at large. He deleted the message. In the distance, thunder rumbled. Or maybe it was helicopters. Hard to tell sometimes when the past and present bled together. Tom chambered around the metallic sound loud in the quiet cabin. Let them come. Dawn broke cold and clear over the Roosevelt National Forest, sunlight filtering through pine needles and shafts of gold. Tom hadn't slept. 20 years in special operations had trained him to function on adrenaline and coffee, and this morning required both in generous quantities. Sarah woke slowly, her violet eyes tracking movement before her body followed. The regeneration gel had worked overnight miracles. Yesterday, she couldn't lift her arms. Today, she sat up without wincing, swinging legs that had been shattered pulp onto hardwood floors. Tom handed her coffee black the way soldiers drank it when sugar was a luxury and cream was a memory. How do you feel? She sipped, made a face that transcended species barriers. Like I was tortured for 2 days, then injected with liquid fire. But better. Her hand explored her ribs, probing gently. The bones are solid, not fully healed, but functional. Your friend's medicine is remarkable. Webb's full of surprises. Max patted over, dropping his head into Sarah's lap with the confidence of a dog who knew he was good people. She scratched behind his ears, smiling with genuine warmth for the first time since Tom had found her. Your companion approves of me. Animals are honest judges of character. Max has never been wrong about a person. The moment broke when Tom's phone vibrated, rattling against the wooden table. Webb's number. Tom answered on speaker. You alive? Define alive. Webb's voice was rough, strained. Led them on a chase through half of Colorado. Lost them somewhere near Colorado Springs. But Tom, they're not giving up. Vex put out a bounty. $5 million for information leading to the Queen's location. $10 million for her capture. Sarah's face went carefully blank, the mask of someone hearing their worth measured in credits. How long before they track us here? 48 hours if they're smart. Less if they're lucky. The cabin's off all registries, but nothing stays hidden forever. What's your status? Shoulders dislocated, 3 cracked ribs, some burns, had worse in Helmand. I'm heading to a safe house in Boulder. Got a friend who asks no questions and has medical training that doesn't show up on any degree. Tom's jaw tightened. Sorry, old man. Save it. You do the same for me. Besides, been boring lately. Nice to feel useful again. The line went dead. Sarah stood testing her balance, moving with the careful precision of someone relearning their body's capabilities. She walked to the window, staring out at pine forests that stretched to horizons she'd never seen before. I'm a liability. To you, to your friend. Perhaps I should surrender. End this before more people are hurt. Tom crossed the room in 3 strides, his hand on her shoulder, firm but gentle. That's the torture talking. That's Vex in your head making you believe you deserve this. You don't. She turned, and something in her eyes made Tom's breath catch. Not attraction, though that was there too. Recognition, like looking into a mirror that reflected souls instead of faces. Why do you care so much? I'm not your species, not your problem. You could have walked away. Tom's voice was quiet when he answered. 5 years back, my wife Sarah got sick. Cancer. Took 18 months to kill her, and I watched every day of it. Toward the end, she looked at me with eyes that said she was done fighting, just wanted it over. You had those same eyes in that alley. I couldn't save Sarah. Maybe I can save you. Sarah's hand found his. I'm sorry you lost her, but I'm grateful you found me. Before Tom could respond, Max's ears pricked up. The dog moved to the door, hackles rising, a low growl building in his chest. Not the warning growl for deer or raccoons. The combat growl. Threat detected. Sarah's eyes unfocused, looking at something beyond the physical world. 6 mines, approaching from the north, military training, heavily armed. They're confused, searching. They haven't found us yet, but they're close. Tom was already moving, grabbing weapons from Webb's hidden caches. Rifle sidearm flashbangs. He tossed Sarah a tactical vest. Can you fight? I was trained in combat before I was trained in diplomacy. Astron queens don't rule from behind guards. Good. Because we're about to test that training. He led her through the cabin's hidden passages, Webb's paranoia made manifest in false walls and bolt holes. They emerged in a root cellar that smelled of earth and old potatoes, a tunnel entrance concealed behind rotting shelves. They crawled through darkness, Max leading the way with nose and instinct. The tunnel stretched 50 yards, emerging in a camouflage blind overlooking the cabin. Perfect ambush position. Through the scope of his rifle, Tom watched 6 figures approach. 4 humans in tactical gear that screamed private military contractor. 2 Krell bigger than the ones from the alley, moving with the controlled aggression of enhanced combat stimulants. The lead human signaled. Hand gestures. Standard military. Breach protocol for hostile environments. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper beside him. They're uncertain. The telepathic signature is fragmented. They know we're near but can't pinpoint a location. I can feel their frustration. Can you do more than feel? What do you mean, Sean? You said you're sensing emotions. Can you project them? Sarah was quiet for 3 heartbeats. I've never tried. Royal telepathy is typically passive. Receiving, not sending. Might be worth trying. Confusion's a weapon if used right. She closed her eyes, concentration drawing lines across her forehead. The mercs below suddenly stopped, looking around like they'd heard something. One pulled off his helmet, shaking his head. Another grabbed his rifle tighter, swinging it toward shadows that held nothing. I'm pushing doubt into their surface thoughts, making them question what they're sensing. That's one hell of a trick. It's exhausting. I can't maintain it long. Below, the mercs were arguing. Tom couldn't hear words, but body language was universal. Half wanted to press forward, half wanted to retreat. Classic unit cohesion breaking down under stress. The Krell didn't argue. They charged the cabin, 4 arms carrying enough firepower to level a small building. Tom's rifle spoke once. Clean headshot. The first Krell dropped. The second was smarter, using cover, returning fire that chewed through trees and sent splinters flying. The human mercs scattered, taking positions with professional efficiency. This wasn't their first firefight. Tom adjusted aim, squeezed trigger. A merc went down, clutching his shoulder. Wounded, not dead. Webb's philosophy: live prisoners talk. Dead ones don't. Sarah's hand found his arm. The second Krell is circling, trying to flank from the east. He's carrying something heavy. A launcher, maybe. Tom pivoted, scanning. There. Movement through underbrush. He fired twice. The Krell stumbled, dropped the launcher, but kept coming. Enhanced physiology meant enhanced durability. Max, hunt! The Shepherd exploded from cover, a gray missile with teeth. He hit the Krell at knee-height, jaws clamping on tendons. The alien roared, trying to shake him off. Max held on with the tenacity of a breed that had been guarding flocks for 1,000 years. Tom was moving before conscious thought registered, using terrain and cover, never running straight. He reached the Krell as it raised an arm to crush Max. Tom's knife found the junction between alien armor plates, punching through into something vital. The Krell collapsed. Sarah materialized beside him, moving with fluid grace that spoke of training, not superhuman speed. Plasma warhead. Thermal yield enough to vaporize the cabin and everything in a 100-yard radius. Put it down gently. She did, then froze. Tom, something's wrong. There's another presence, not human or Krell, something else. Something that doesn't feel alive but isn't dead either. The forest erupted with mechanical screeching, metal on metal servos, whining under load. Trees toppled as something massive forced through vegetation that had stood for centuries. The extractor. 3 meters of chrome and carbon fiber, 6 articulated arms, a central chassis bristling with sensors and weapons. Its head, if something built rather than born could have a head, was a cluster of optical lenses that tracked movement with insect precision. Its voice was synthesized, emotionless, the sound of algorithms deciding who lived and died. Target acquired. Queen Seraphina. Surrender and minimize casualties. Tom put himself between Sarah and the machine. She's not going anywhere. Analysis indicates human male, age 68, degraded physical capabilities. Threat assessment minimal. Step aside. Come make me. The extractor moved faster than something that size had any right to move. One arm lashed out, catching Tom across the chest, sending him flying into a tree trunk, hard enough to crack ribs and steal his breath. Pain was information. Information said several bones were broken and possibly a collapsed lung. Sarah's eyes blazed violet light, psychic energy made visible. The extractor staggered, its movements suddenly jerky, uncoordinated. Error. Psychic interference detected. Compensating. It fired from a shoulder-mounted weapon. Not bullets. Some kind of net that expanded mid-flight, wrapping around Sarah, dragging her down. The net crackled with electricity, stunning charge designed to incapacitate without killing. Max launched himself at the machine jaws, finding purchase on one articulated arm. Metal screeched. Servos sparked. The extractor shook him off, but not before the dog tore loose a bundle of cables that sparked and hissed. Tom forced himself upright, tasting blood. His rifle was gone, lost in the impact. But Webb's paranoia extended to backup weapons. Tom's hand found the plasma pistol holstered at his ankle. "Hey, Terminator." The extractor rotated, lenses focusing on Tom. Tom fired. Plasma bolts vaporized matter, turning solid into gas in microseconds. The first bolt took off one of the extractor's arms. The second hit center mass, melting through armor plating. The machine's voice glitched, stuttering. Critical damage, initiating self-preservation protocols. It grabbed Sarah in its remaining arms, jet thrusters on its back igniting with a roar. The extractor rocketed upward, punching through the forest canopy, taking Sarah with it. Tom watched her disappear into clouded sky, helpless. Max pressed against his leg, whining. "I know, boy. I know." He keyed his phone, ignoring the blood running down his face. Webb, they took her, some kind of robot, flew off heading southeast. Webb's response was immediate. Vex's extractor tracked it through military channels. There's only one place he'd take her. His compound outside Colorado Springs, abandoned Air Force bunker from the Cold War, heavily fortified. Send coordinates. Tom, you're not thinking straight. That's a hardened military installation. You can't assault it alone. Watch me. You'll die. Then I'll die doing something that matters. He hung up before Webb could argue further. The surviving mercs had fled during the chaos. Tom searched their abandoned gear, finding medical supplies and enough ammunition to start a small war. He wrapped his ribs with field dressings, swallowed pain pills that turned the world soft around the edges, loaded weapons with mechanical efficiency. Max watched tail wagging once. The dog knew what came next. Tom's phone buzzed voice, a text from an unknown number. You have 12 hours before Vex begins extraction process. After that, Queen Seraphina's mind will be empty shell. Knowledge transferred, personality erased. Come alone and perhaps I'll let you watch. Tom stared at the message, rage building behind his eyes. 12 hours, not enough time for planning. Barely enough time for dying. He checked his weapons one final time, then headed for Webb's truck. Max jumped into the passenger seat without being asked. The drive to Colorado Springs took 90 minutes, Tom pushing the old Ford past speeds it was never designed for. The engine screamed, the frame rattled. None of it mattered. Sarah was in his head now, a constant presence made of fear and determination. The life bond worked both ways. She could feel him coming, could feel his broken ribs and his rage, and his absolute refusal to let her face extraction alone. Through their connection, fragmentary images. A room, metal walls, restraints. The extractor's chassis plugged into machinery that pulsed with light. Vex tall and pale, watching with detached interest, and Sarah screaming as neural probes invaded her skull. Tom's foot pressed the accelerator harder. Colorado Springs appeared through the windshield. Somewhere in those streets, Webb's safe house offered medical care and rational thinking. Tom drove past it without slowing. The bunker coordinates led to Bureau of Land Management property officially closed to the public. The kind of legal maze that existed specifically to hide things governments didn't want found. Tom parked 2 miles out, approaching on foot through terrain that hadn't changed much in 40 years. The bunker entrance was concealed behind false rock formations, but thermal imaging showed heat signatures underground. Lots of them. 50 people, give or take. Maybe a third were guards. The rest were support staff technicians. Tom checked his loadout. Rifle sidearm grenades, enough ammunition for a sustained firefight. Not enough for 50 opponents, but he'd been outnumbered before. Max pressed against his leg, a reminder that dying wasn't the only option. Yeah, we go in smart. Get Sarah out. Save the heroic last stand for next time. He studied the bunker layout through Webb's hacked military satellites. The extraction room was deep, protected by multiple security layers. Getting in would be hard, getting out would be impossible, unless he didn't use the door. Tom's eyes found the ventilation system, massive ducts that fed clean air to underground levels. Big enough for a man, if that man didn't mind enclosed spaces. He'd been through worse. Fallujah had sewers that made this look like first-class accommodations. The vent cover came off with minimal noise, decades of Colorado weather having rusted the bolts. Tom squeezed inside Max, whining softly but staying behind as ordered. Some places were too dangerous even for loyal dogs. The duct system was exactly as unpleasant as expected. Hot, cramped, every surface covered in decades of accumulated dust. Tom crawled forward, guided by Sarah's presence in his head like a compass pointing to true north. She was close now. Pain radiated through their bond-sharp spikes of agony as neural probes mapped her memories. Tom reached a grate overlooking the extraction chamber. Below, Sarah was strapped to a medical chair, surrounded by equipment that belonged in a nightmare. Vex stood nearby, monitoring displays. Remarkable specimen. Her neural pathways contain encryption I've never encountered. Breaking through will take time, but the payoff, he smiled. Astron's planetary defense codes, weapon systems, fleet positions, worth far more than the 50 million Kane paid. Sarah's voice was weak but defiant. You'll never break the encryption. It's genetic. Only royal bloodline can access the codes. Then it's fortunate I have methods for extracting genetic markers. He gestured to a technician who approached with a syringe filled with something that glowed like bottled starlight. Tom didn't think. He kicked the grate free, dropped 12 feet, rolled to absorb impact despite protesting ribs came up firing. The technician went down, clutching a shattered knee. Vex dove behind equipment. Guards poured into the room, weapons raised. Tom moved through them with economy of motion, using their numbers against them, creating crossfire situations, never staying still. His rifle barked. Guards fell. Return fire chewed through machinery. Sparks flew. Alarms wailed. Tom reached Sarah's chair, fingers working the restraints. Knew you'd come. Her voice was dream-soft. Always. The restraints released. Tom caught her as she collapsed, the bond humming between them. Vex emerged from cover, holding a weapon that looked like it belonged in a museum dedicated to war crimes. Touching, the old soldier and the broken queen. He fired. The weapon discharged energy that turned air solid, crushing down with pressure that made Tom's broken ribs scream. He went to his knees, unable to breathe. Sarah's hand found his face. "I'm sorry, this is my fault." "Nothing's your fault." Vex approached. "Any final words before I resume extraction?" Tom looked up, blood running from his mouth, and smiled. "Yeah, Webb says hello." The bunker's emergency power failed. Every light, every machine went dark. Webb's voice crackled over the intercom. "Emergency protocol engaged. All personnel evacuate immediately. Self-destruct sequence initiated." It was a bluff, but panic doesn't require truth. Guards ran, technicians fled. In 30 seconds, the extraction chamber was empty, except for Vex, Tom, Sarah, and enough shadows to hide an army. Vex's weapon swung toward where Tom had been, but the old soldier was moving. He tackled Vex, both of them crashing through equipment. They fought in darkness. Vex was younger, stronger, augmented with technology. Tom was meaner. His thumb found Vex's eye. His knee found vulnerable anatomy. His elbow found throat cartilage. No rules when you are protecting what matters. Sarah's voice cut through the chaos, amplified by telepathy. "Enough." The word carried weight, psychic pressure that froze both combatants. She stood, one hand outstretched, eyes blazing with violet light. "I am Seraphina, last queen of Astron, and I will not be property ever again." The psychic blast threw Vex across the room, slamming him into concrete. He slumped unconscious. Emergency lights flickered on. The bunker structure groaned. Tom had planted Webb's remaining explosives on load-bearing pillars during his entrance crawl. Tom grabbed Sarah, heading for the exit. "Can you walk? I can run if necessary." They ran. Behind them, the bunker collapsed in sections. They emerged into Colorado sunlight, gasping, covered in dust and blood alive. Max greeted them with excited barking. The dog had dragged Tom's emergency kit to the tree line. Tom collapsed against a tree, lungs burning, ribs grinding. Sarah knelt beside him, her hands glowing with faint light as she pressed them to his chest. "What are you doing?" "Healing. Royal gift. I can accelerate your body's natural recovery." Warmth spread through his chest, dulling pain, making breath possible again. "You're remarkable, you know that." "I was raised to be. Queens don't have the luxury of weakness." Her hands trembled as they left his chest. The healing had cost her. "But with you, Tom, I don't have to be a queen. I can just be Sarah." He understood. The safe house in Boulder smelled like antiseptic and old books. Webb's friend turned out to be a woman in her 70s named Dr. Elena Vasquez, former Army surgeon. She worked on Tom's ribs with practiced efficiency, wrapping them tight. 3 cracked, 1 fractured, clean through. You're lucky it didn't puncture a lung." Tom grunted, watching Sarah across the room. She sat perfectly still while Webb cleaned lacerations from the neural probes. "How long before I can move properly?" Vasquez gave him the look doctors reserve for patients who confused invincibility with stupidity. 6 weeks minimum. But you'll ignore that and do something stupid in 48 hours, so let's focus on keeping you alive. And she handed him pills, pain management, antibiotics, anti-inflammatory. "Take them or don't, but if you die from infection, don't haunt me." Webb appeared in the doorway, arm in a sling. "News. Vex survived the bunker collapse. He's in a military hospital under federal custody. The feds found enough evidence to prosecute trafficking across 3 star systems." Tom sat up, despite ribs screaming. "What's he saying?" "Nothing yet. Lawyered up, but there's more. Intelligence picked up unusual traffic near Jupiter's orbit. Ships, a lot of them, military configuration, heading toward Earth." Sarah's head snapped up. "Kane, he's coming for me." "How many ships?" "The fleet he stole during the coup. 50 warships, each carrying enough firepower to glass a continent." The room went quiet. Tom's mind cataloged the tactical situation. 50 warships. Earth's defense grid wasn't designed for this. "How long before they arrive?" Webb checked his tablet. 48 hours. Give or take. Sarah stood swaying, catching herself on the wall. "I need to reach NORAD." Cheyenne Mountain. If anyone on Earth has the authority to coordinate defense, it's them. You think they'll listen? They'll listen when I tell them what Kane really wants. It's not conquest. It's the defense codes. Astron's planetary grid can be repurposed offensively. With those codes, he can turn a shield into a weapon capable of destroying entire fleets. Tom was already moving. Then we go to NORAD. Webb, you got contacts there? General Sarah Mitchell. We served together in the Gulf. She's high enough in the command structure to make things happen. Make the call. 3 hours later, they were in a military helicopter heading toward Cheyenne Mountain. Tom sat beside Sarah, both wearing visitor badges that felt absurd. The mountain appeared through clouds radar installations and satellite dishes clustered around an entrance designed to survive nuclear war. General Mitchell met them in a conference room buried under 2,000 feet of granite. She was 63 African American with command presence that made junior officers straighten spines without conscious thought. Marcus Webb vouches for you, Harrison. But this better be good. I just pulled 6 flag officers out of their morning coffee. Sarah stepped forward, and something in her posture changed. The frightened victim disappeared. The alien queen emerged. General Mitchell, I am Serafina of Astron. 48 hours ago, Warlord Kane launched a fleet toward Earth with intent to capture me and extract genetic defense codes that would give him weapons capable of annihilating any opposition. If he succeeds, Earth becomes his first target. Mitchell's expression didn't change, but her hand moved to a tablet. We've been tracking those ships, assumed they were pirates. You're saying it's worse. Exponentially worse. Kane overthrew my parents, killed the Royal Guard, and sold me to a human trafficker. He's not interested in diplomacy. He's interested in dominance. One of the other officers, a Navy admiral, leaned forward. Why should we believe you? Tom's voice cut through the skepticism. Because 2 hours ago, we pulled her out of an extraction facility where a crime lord was trying to rip those codes out of her brain. Because people have died protecting her. And because in 48 hours, you'll see those ships drop out of hyperspace whether you believe us or not. Mitchell held up a hand. Assuming this is accurate, what's your proposed solution? Earth's defense grid isn't designed for capital ship engagement. Sarah's eyes met Tom's, a question passing between them through the bond. There's one option. I can destroy the codes. Erase them completely from my genetic memory. Without them, I'm worthless to Kane. Tom's hand found hers. What does that mean for you? It means neural self-destruction, targeted memory erasure. I'll survive physically, but everything that makes me Queen Serafina will be gone. My childhood, my parents, my training, all of it, erased like it never existed. The room went silent. Not skepticism, horror. Mitchell spoke carefully. You're talking about psychological suicide. I'm talking about preventing genocide. Those codes are the only thing Kane wants. Without them, I'm just another refugee. Earth becomes unimportant. Tom's grip tightened. There has to be another way. There isn't, and we both know it. Mitchell stood. We'll support whatever you choose. If erasure is the play, we've got medical facilities that can handle it. But understand, once it's done, there's no going back. Sarah's smile was sad. Perhaps that's not entirely bad. Being a queen hasn't brought me much happiness lately. The procedure room was sterile white, filled with equipment that bridged human medicine and alien biology. Dr. Vasquez worked with 2 xenobiologists mapping Sarah's brain structure. Tom wasn't allowed in the room. Protocol. He paced outside, Max at his heels. Through the observation window, he watched Sarah lying on the surgical table, electrodes attached to her temples. Her eyes found his through the glass, and the bond carried more than words. Gratitude, fear, apology, love maybe. Webb appeared beside him, offering coffee. She's stronger than she looks. I know. You care about her, more than professional interest. Tom didn't answer immediately. Sarah took 18 months to die. Every day watching her fade. This feels the same. Watching someone disappear right in front of me. It's not the same. Sarah's choosing this. Agency matters. Doesn't make it hurt less. Inside the procedure began. Tom felt it through the bond, a sensation like fingers rifling through a filing cabinet, pulling folders, burning pages. Memories disappeared in cascades. Childhood, training, coronation, parents' faces, Everything that made Serafina a queen systematically deleted. Tom's knees went weak. Webb caught him. The bond. You're feeling it. Every memory she loses, I feel the hole it leaves behind. Can you handle it? Tom's jaw set. I've handled worse. 30 minutes later, the procedure ended. Sarah's eyes opened unfocused. The doctors ran scans confirming genetic encryption had been destroyed. The codes were gone. Permanently. Mitchell received confirmation through her tablet. It's done. She's no longer a security threat. And without those codes, Kane has no reason to come here. Except that wasn't how revenge worked. Tom knew it. Anyone who'd seen combat knew it. Kane would come anyway. The warlord's face appeared on every screen in NORAD, simultaneously bypassing military encryption. He was tall, muscular skin, deep blue eyes burning red. Golden armor covered his torso, etched with Astran royal crests. Stolen legitimacy worn like a trophy. People of Earth, I am Warlord Kane, rightful ruler of Astran. You harbor a criminal, the deposed Queen Serafina. Surrender her within 6 hours, or I will demonstrate the consequences of defiance. The transmission cut to video feed. A small colony world, peaceful, agricultural. Then orbital bombardment began, plasma beams turning farms into glass cities into craters. The feed ended with smoking ruins and a crater where 1 million people had lived. Kane's face returned. 6 hours. Choose wisely. The screens went dark. Mitchell's expression could have frozen helium. Get me the president. Tom was already moving toward the medical bay. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed looking lost. Her eyes tracked him without recognition. Who are you? The words hit harder than any bullet. Tom Harrison. We've been through a lot together. You don't remember? She shook her head. I remember nothing before waking up here. The doctors say I had a procedure that I chose to forget. Tom sat beside her, careful not to crowd. You were a queen. You sacrificed your memories to save Earth. You're the bravest person I've ever met. I don't feel brave. I feel empty. Through the bond, Tom felt her confusion, her fear, but underneath something remained. A warmth when she looked at him. Recognition without memory. Do I know you? It feels like I should know you. We've spent the last few days keeping each other alive. Guess that creates connections. Sarah's hand found his tentative. When I touch you, I feel less lost, like an anchor in a storm. Is that normal? Nothing about our situation is normal. Alarms blared through the complex. Mitchell's voice over intercom. All personnel to defensive stations. Kane's fleet has entered engagement range. This is not a drill. Tom helped Sarah to her feet. Can you fight even without memories? Her eyes focused, something hardening behind the confusion. I don't remember being a queen, but my body remembers training. Show me where the battle is. The command center was controlled chaos officers coordinating responses across 3 continents. Satellite feeds showed Kane's fleet in high orbit, 50 warships in formation. One ship separated from the fleet, descending through atmosphere. Not a warship, a transport, Mitchell's tactical officer reported. Single ship inbound, landing site 15 miles east of our position. They're coming for her in person. Tom checked his weapons. His ribs protested. His body complained. He ignored both. How many troops can that transport carry? Best guess 200. Full battalion with armor support. Webb appeared similarly armed. 2 old soldiers against 200 aliens. We've faced worse odds. Name one time. Can't, but we're still breathing, so our track record's decent. Sarah picked up a rifle, checking the action with muscle memory. I'm coming with you. You don't remember how to fight. My body does. And whoever I was, she clearly trusted you. That's enough for me. Mitchell stepped forward. You don't have to do this. We can put you in protective custody. There is nowhere safe if Kane wins. Better to fight beside people who feel right than hide among strangers. The transport landed in a clearing surrounded by pine forest crushing trees. Ramps lowered. Troops poured out, 200 soldiers in powered armor. And walking among them Kane, tall, imposing, radiating confidence. His voice carried across the distance, amplified. Serafina, I know you're here. Face me with honor or I'll burn this mountain to bedrock. Tom raised binoculars, studying the formation. Professional, disciplined. This wasn't going to be a fight they could win through tactics alone. Sarah stepped into the open hands raised, walking toward Kane with courage Tom had only seen in soldiers who'd made peace with dying. I'm here, Kane, but I'm not the queen you remember. The codes are gone, destroyed. There's nothing left for you to take. Kane's laughter was cruel. You think I came for codes, foolish girl. I came for legitimacy, the royal bloodline. With you as my bonded mate, the Astran people will accept my rule. Your memories don't matter. Your genetics do. He signaled. 20 soldiers raised weapons aiming not at Sarah but at the mountain. At NORAD, at 3,000 personnel. Surrender and bond with me, or everyone in that facility dies. You have 60 seconds. Tom's mind raced through options scenarios. None ended well. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but advantages were just numbers. And numbers only mattered if you fought the kind of battle they expected. He keyed his radio. General Mitchell, I need you to trust me. Execute Protocol Omega. Harrison, that protocol doesn't exist. It does now, do it. Mitchell hesitated 3 seconds, then her voice carried new authority. All forces execute Protocol Omega. Authorization Mitchell 77 Alpha. Across the complex, every door sealed. Every system went dark. And deep beneath the mountain, old Cold War technology powered up systems designed for exactly one purpose, mutually assured destruction. Kane's confidence faltered. What are you doing? Tom stepped into the open beside Sarah, rifle ready. Changing the math. You want her? You get through me, you attack this facility. We've got enough nuclear warheads pointed at your fleet to turn orbit into a debris field. Mutual destruction. Only question is whether you're willing to die for revenge. You're bluffing. Humans wouldn't sacrifice themselves. You invaded the wrong planet if you believe that. We've got a history of making really bad decisions when someone threatens what we love. Ask the Nazis. Ask the Soviets. Hell, ask ourselves. We've fought our own species over principles. You think we won't burn the sky to protect it? Kane's red eyes narrowed, calculating. Sarah's voice was calm, certain. He means it, Kane. I can feel his resolve. He'll die fighting you, and this world will follow him into that death rather than surrender. That's who humans are. That's why I chose to stay with them. The warlord stared at her, something shifting in his expression. Understanding, maybe. You've changed. The Serafina I knew would have begged. I don't remember that woman. This version of me, she doesn't beg. Kane raised his hand. His troops held position. For 10 seconds, the world balanced on the edge of violence. Then he lowered his hand. Keep her. A queen with no memory is worthless anyway. He turned to his troops. We leave. There are easier conquests than this stubborn rock. The troops filed back into the transport. Engines roared. The ship lifted, rejoining the fleet. Within minutes, 50 warships engaged hyperspace drives, disappearing in flashes of light. They were gone. Tom lowered his rifle, hands shaking. Sarah leaned against him, both of them holding each other upright. Did that really just work? Apparently bluffing is cross-species. Mitchell approached Max at her heels. That was the stupidest, most reckless gamble I've ever witnessed. We didn't actually have nukes pointed at their fleet. I know, but Kane didn't. You bet billions of lives on a bluff. I bet on human psychology, on our reputation for being crazy enough to burn everything if pushed. Turns out that reputation's worth something. Mitchell studied them both. For what it's worth, Harrison, that was some of the finest tactical thinking I've seen. If you ever want to come out of retirement, we could use someone with your particular brand of insanity. I'll consider it. 1 month later, Tom and Sarah stood on the porch of a new cabin in Montana, watching sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and purple. Max slept at their feet, puppies from a local shepherd tumbling around him. Sarah was learning who she was without memory of who she'd been. Some days were harder than others, but Tom was patient, teaching her about Earth, about humanity, about coffee and sunsets and the small joys that made life worth living. The life bond had survived the memory erasure. Whatever connection they'd formed transcended conscious thought, existing at a level deeper than memory. Webb visited, bringing news. The syndicate had been dismantled. Vex was serving 6 consecutive life sentences. Earth had established formal diplomatic relations with 3 alien governments, including a newly democratic Astran. The new Astran government had reached out. They wanted their queen back. Offered her the throne, the palace, everything she'd lost. Sarah had declined. Now she sat beside Tom, his arm around her shoulders, both of them content with the small corner of the universe they'd claimed. Do you ever regret it, giving up being a queen? Sarah was quiet for a moment. I don't remember being a queen. Can't regret losing something I don't recall having. But this, she gestured to the sunset, the cabin, Tom. This I remember. This matters. You could have gone back, relearned everything. Being royalty is just a title. This is a life, I prefer the life. Tom's arm tightened around her. What do we do now? Now we live, together, for as long as the bond allows. That's a long time for an old soldier. Then it's fortunate you have someone to keep you young. She leaned against him and they watched the sun sink below the mountains. The universe was vast and often cruel, but in this moment on this porch with this person, Tom Harrison felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Peace. Max stirred, ears perking. A vehicle approached. Webb's truck appeared through the trees. He climbed out, moving carefully. Sorry to interrupt, but there's something you should see. He pulled out a tablet showing news feeds. Astron's new government had released files from the old palace. Personal things, letters, speeches, a video of a young Serafina laughing in gardens while her parents watched. The woman in those videos looked like Sarah, but was someone different, someone she'd chosen to stop being. Sarah watched with detached interest. She seemed happy. She was, Webb said gently, before the coup. Do you think she'd approve of what I've become? Tom's hand found hers. I think she'd understand that survival means adapting. That sometimes you have to let go of who you were to become who you need to be. Sarah smiled. Then I hope wherever she is, whatever remains of her in my genetics, she knows I'm happy, that the sacrifice wasn't wasted. Webb stayed for dinner trading stories about the old days. They laughed about things that hadn't been funny at the time the way veterans do. After Webb left, after the dishes were clean, and Max was fed, and the cabin settled into comfortable darkness, Tom and Sarah stood on the porch again, looking at stars that held civilizations they'd never meet. Tom, thank you for saving me, for staying, for everything. You saved me too, just in a different way. I don't remember being a queen, but I remember this, the first time you touched me in that alley. I felt something I'd forgotten existed. Hope. You gave that back to me. Hope's easy when you're not facing it alone. Above them, stars wheeled in their ancient dance. Somewhere in orbit, satellites tracked potential threats. On Earth, governments prepared for a future where humanity was no longer alone. But here in Montana, two people who'd fought for each other simply stood together, watching the universe spin, content with the small corner they'd claimed. Tom's phone buzzed. A message from Mitchell. Unknown ships entering system. Not Astron, not Syndicate. Something new. Might need your help again soon. M. He showed Sarah the message. She read it, then looked at the mountains, the cabin, the life they'd built. Do we answer, Mom? Tom thought about it. We'll see what she needs, but this time we negotiate terms first. No more free heroics. What terms? Double rations for Max and a real vacation after, somewhere warm, with beaches. Sarah laughed. Deal. They went inside, closing the door against the mountain cold. Tomorrow would bring its challenges. Tonight was for rest, for warmth, for the simple miracle of having someone to face tomorrow beside. And if the universe needed saving again, well, they'd proven they were pretty good at that. But it could wait until after breakfast. Max claimed his spot on the bed between them, a furry chaperone who'd earned his position through loyalty and teeth. Tom's hand found Sarah's in the darkness, the life bond humming between them, like a promise made in fire and kept through everything that followed. Good night, Sarah. Good night, Tom. Outside Montana, mountains stood eternal watch. Above, stars burned with light that had traveled years to reach this small planet, where impossible things happened regularly and love conquered occasionally. The cabin's lights went dark. The night deepened, and two people who'd saved each other and the world slept, bound by choices made in desperation and honored through everything that followed. The universe would keep turning. Threats would emerge. Battles would be fought. But tonight in this place, peace reigned, and that was enough.